Now tuned into the greatest.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. I appreciate you tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast. You know, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, disagree with, or even if you just want to outsmart me on something, give us a call, 219-413-9405, and we will play your take back on air during our next episode. All right, so look, just for a second, man, we got to turn back the clock. Only really because I took a vacation. I was out of town. But rewind for a second. Let's pretend it's the evening of July 29th, which was the Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fight with Bud, man. He won by TKO in a knockout, and he pretty much just embarrassed Errol Spence. So we got to talk about this just for a second. There's some voicemail callers on here, too, that we're going to get to just in a second because I wanted you guys to leave your take. I want to hear your thoughts on it as well, especially if you take your time and listen to me. My thoughts on it initially was this was a great fight. I thought it was good. It did not go the distance as I hoped for or as I anticipated, but Terence Crawford did win as I anticipated, and it was a great fight down the line. Like, I'm happy it happened. I'm happy I watched it. I'm happy we could say we witnessed Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. We can put those conversations of who's the better fighter to rest. But my thing is, anytime you can make a boxer like Errol Spence look silly in the ring, you are a damn good fighter. Now, Crawford, he did his thing. I could go on forever and ever and ever about how great he was in this fight. He was patient with his poor counters. He was simple, using the hell out of his straight jabs and landing all of his straight jabs. He didn't force any power punches that could have put him at risk. His defense was impeccable throughout the fight. Like, man, he was amazing. And it was a very high level IQ from Terence Crawford from what we've seen throughout this fight. He had control. He was focused, like he was just locked in. It was amazing on his perspective. Obviously, the guy who many people anticipated winning this fight was Errol Spence. Vegas had the odds in Errol Spence's favor, and it did not work out that way. A lot of people lost money for it. I would have actually won money, but I'm glad I didn't bet on it. But Errol Spence, hell of a boxer. I still think he's one of the best in this weight class and one of the best in this era. However, his defense was awful. It was god-awful throughout this entire fight, which is why he looked so awful throughout this entire fight, and Crawford embarrassed him the way he did. In this fight, Crawford landed over 50% of his total punches and 60% of his power punches on Errol Spence. As a fighter, you cannot allow this to happen. He is beating the hell out of you, and you're barely doing things to him. It was already said that Errol Spence, he was barely hurting Crawford when he was landing his punches, that he landed not frequently, I should say. He didn't really land too many punches. It was only 2 rounds where he landed 40% or over 40% of his power punches. So that tells you right there, it wasn't much going on for Errol Spence. He couldn't cook up that many things throughout this fight. But I thought he did an okay job at playing the space game with Crawford. He stood his ground. He showed his heart. And he didn't allow Crawford to continue to bully him. He tried. And that's why I say, like, it was a good fight. He really did try, but it just wasn't much you could do. And it's only so much you can do to a fighter when you're not hurting him. Because you got to think, man, the punches that you're landing and the punches that you hit somebody with, it's supposed to make them fatigued. It's supposed to wear and tear them down as you continue to go the distance, 7th and 8th and 9th round. But that wasn't the case. So that hurt Errol Spence. That put him at a disadvantage as well when you talk about the fight. Also, too, there was only 1 round where Spence landed more than 20% of his jabs on Crawford. Kudos to Bud for having a great defense, but you got to figure this out, man. You got to be able to land more punches and to make effective punches as well, because there was some taps that he got, but at the same time, if you're not hurting the man, there's only so much you can do. And I say, man, you know, Spence, he showed the heart. It was a great fight. I thought it was cool. He's still one of the best in his class, but we got some voicemail callers as well. I don't want to hold you too much on what I'm talking about. Let's play some of the voicemail callers and see what they had to say about the Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fight. Let's do it. Let's jump straight into it.
This is Nick.
What's the deal, Nick?
I really feel like Crawford just outboxed him all around. He had the speed, he had the defense. Earl was just too slow, didn't have the combinations. If there is a rematch, I know Earl's going to come back with more intensity, but we got to think about the same thing with Bud, because Bud been going at it for some time, but that's my take.
Yeah, no. I agree with you for the most part. I think Spence did look a little slow. However, he landed the punches, but the biggest factor was that the punches he landed did not hurt Terence Crawford. I mean, you can only do so much. Even if he was landing more of the punches, if they're not hurting the guy, you can keep swinging all you want. It's just not going to affect him. So, yeah, I agree with you. Terence Crawford, he did his thing. He definitely earned the fight, and he showed his ass by putting belt to ass to Errol Spence. So that's a great take, man. Definitely appreciate you for calling in. Let's do it. We got another caller right here. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, man, this is ISO Cali.
What's the deal?
Tapping in from California, man. SoCal.
Cali. Man.
The thing is, man, I just wanted to share my thoughts about this fight. I had faith in Spence. I had faith in Crawford as well to take it the distance. That boy Bud, he's just different. He's just a different beast. That boy just built different. I don't see nobody knocking him off the throne, man. He hard body, he's strong with it, man. He walking through opponents. You see what he did to Spence, man. You see how he put them paws on him. That boy touched everything but the bottom of his feet, I promise you. But it's good for boxing. It's good for the culture. It's good for the division. So I look forward to seeing these boys doing more for the sport. But shout out to Bud, man. He got the crown right now. That's facts.
One of the things you mentioned that I definitely agree with, you said Crawford was a different beast. He proved to everybody on this fight that he was definitely a different breed. Again, Spence was the favorite from this fight. Many people thought he was gonna like mollywop him. They thought if it was gonna be a knockout, it would be a Spence knockout victory win, but that just was not the case. I think the rematch would be slightly different. I would hope that it's different, but agreeing with you, yeah. Bud is just a different beast, bro. He's a different beast. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next voicemail call. Appreciate you for calling on the last one, bro. All right, next one, let's do it.
This is Earth from Southeast DC.
What's the deal, Brody?
I just want to say my man Errol Spence, you know, he looked a little like slower than normal. Maybe the effects of the crash.
Nope. Nope.
If you pay attention to
I gotta stop you right there, bro. I'm sorry. We're not doing that. We are not doing that. I'm not allowing that to be an excuse. If Errol Spence can go on national television and catch an ass whooping in front of everybody and millions of viewers, we're not about to sit here and give him no excuse that the car crash is the reason why he lost this fight. If the car, I know, you know, you can't really place a time on the recovery of preparing after that and all of that. It's tragic. I get it. Trust me, I understand. And I'm not saying, you know, it doesn't have any sort of effect, but there was videos after the car crash where Spence was saying, oh, I feel like I punch harder, or media was saying he punches harder after the car crash. And if that was the case where that was still a factor in this fight, why the hell are we still letting this fight go on if he wasn't fully recovered to fight Bud Crawford at this point? So no, I can't allow anything in terms of excuses to go on about how Crawford or only won because Spence was still recovering or Spence gained a bunch of weight. No. We're not doing that excuse game, man. Excuses are tools of incompetence which build monuments of nothingness. So kudos to him. I appreciate you for calling. I'm sorry I had to cut you off like that, bro, but you know, I can't allow the excuses. I can't allow it. I just can't. I can't. You got to come with something. We gonna play you back next time too, but you got to come harder than that. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, man. You got to come a little bit harder than that. All right, last voicemail caller here, and then we gonna wrap up, head to some news.
Yo, what's up? This Jackson out of Texas, man.
What's the deal, bro?
Hey, I don't think they should fight, you know, so soon in December, man. I think he should fight another few other fights before him.
Okay.
I think he's just a better fighter, man. Crawford just a better fighter, but fighters to prepare, a little more and go from there.
I first off, I appreciate you calling in, bro. Second, man, I don't think I agree with you. I disagree with you, actually. I don't think they should fight other fighters if they're going to do a rematch. Right now, they kind of got a feel for each other's style. So running it back in December, there's no issue with that to me. You already fought each other once. Come back again. Fix the mistakes that you made, more so on Errol Spence's behalf. Come back with a better defense. And then now you got a part two. And hopefully the part two is what we were expecting in part one, which is a closer fight in terms of stats and in terms of the visual eye test. But I don't think they should wait at any time, man. Clearly, Crawford won this fight fair and square. Fighting other guys are only going to just add more damage to each other's bodies, and it's going to prolong all this stuff. But no, if y'all going to run it back again while it's still hot. Don't be trying to wait. Don't be trying to postpone all of this stuff because it may never happen if you do that. So that's my thing. That's why I disagree with you. But of course, bro, I appreciate you for tuning in. For anybody who still want to get some stuff off their chest, maybe it's pertaining to the fight. Maybe it's pertaining to something completely different. Go ahead. Give us a call, 219-413-9405, and we will play your take back for our whole community to hear on the Run Podcast. But look, man, we got some news coming up. Gervonta Davis called out Bud Crawford, said he would knock this pound-for-pound fighter out in 6 rounds if they fought at 147. So we got the audio for you, too. So we're going to play it. And then we're going to chop it up about that after we run through the rest of the news. But stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. And we will be right back. All right, news for the run. Starting off with Gervonta Tank Davis. He said he would knock out the pound-for-pound fighter Terence Crawford if they fought at 147. And here's the audio via the Breakfast Club. Let's do it.
I got a question for you, Tank. At 147, how does a fight with you and Terence Crawford look?
147? I tapped that trend. You know he going to sleep.
I already know. I already know he is.
Ain't got no chance.
I already know he is.
Said no chance.
I got round 5.
Got round 6.
We'll go with that. I'm gonna put my money around 6.
And in the NFL, we got some more stuff going on, too. Quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, he signed with the Detroit Lions. Free agent running back Kareem Hunt, he signed with the New Orleans Saints. And NFL preseason is kicking off tomorrow, August 10th, 2023. So be prepared to watch your favorite team in the preseason and see what they can start doing at the start of the NFL. All right, in the NBA, Anthony Davis, he and the Los Angeles Lakers agreed to a 3-year, $168 million extension. All right, now look, man, as I mentioned, Gervonta Davis, you heard the audio, him and Terence Crawford fighting at 147. He said he would knock Bud Crawford out in 6 rounds. Let's be real about the situation, bro. I love Gervonta Davis. I love Terence Crawford from the fighting aspect. Terence Crawford, he would destroy Gervonta Davis at 147. He's simply just way too strong. He would hurt Tank. Based on what we've seen from the Spence and Crawford fight, all them big punches don't really mean too much. But Tank, he's never even fought above 135. He wouldn't even go to 140 at certain times in the past. And it would be very difficult for me to go against Crawford in this aspect here. And I don't know why, in what world, it would make sense for Gervonta Davis to make his debut in another weight class against a champion like Bud Crawford. It just does not make sense to me at all. However, and I really do feel like you could make an argument that Tank would win at 147, especially if they move to a different weight class like 135 or even 140, because Gervonta Tank Davis, he is one of the hardest hitters in his weight class at 135. 27 knockouts at 29 wins. Off the defense alone, Tank would make this a pretty good fight, to be honest, because he's a great offensive fighter, but he has a great defense as well, and I think that could stand the test going against Bud Crawford. But obviously, Crawford is a lot bigger, and Tank would have to go up in weight if they fought at 147. And one of the hardest and most difficult things that would be going against Crawford would be to inflict pain. That would be the the most difficult task for Tank going against Crawford in 147 is the ability to inflict pain on Crawford. Because Spence is deemed a big puncher and deemed someone who has a hard throw, a hard right hand, hard left hand, but he couldn't really cause damage to Terence Crawford. And that's something that would concern me in this fight. However, if Gervonta Davis picks up the weight and goes up in the weight class, his hits are going to get heavier and heavier. And he is also one of the biggest hitters in his class. And even a guy from 168 that he sparred with a couple years ago, Lonnie B, he sparred with him and he said Tank has a pretty damn strong punch on him. And he and his camp said Gervonta Davis punches felt like if you went to the market and put a frozen chicken in a pillowcase and just started swinging it at your head and body. Like, that is some damage right there. When you just take that vision and you depict that picture of a frozen chicken in a pillowcase just being swung at you over and over and over and over again, not too many people can help but to feel that type of pain. So that's the punches right there. And I understand again, Bud Crawford, he has the reach advantage. He has the height advantage. He has the weight advantage. He wouldn't have to drop weight or cut weight as much trying to fight at 147. That's already where he was. So you wouldn't have to do anything about that. However, everyone else that Gervonta Davis fought also had a great wingspan. Jose Pedraza, Santa Cruz, Jesus Quesada, he had a Ryan Garcia. He even had a longer wingspan than Gervonta Davis, but all of those guys who were slightly bigger and still had longer reach could not beat Gervonta Davis, and they still could not take a punch from him when it came pound for pound time. Like, I'm gonna tell you this right now, man. We don't even have to talk about the heavy hitting, because we've seen what a heavy hitter did to Terence Bud Crawford, and it wasn't much, honestly. So we can stray away from that from a second. Just the IQ standpoint from what Tank can do in the boxing world already puts him at an advantage as well, and it's something that I would love to see. Boxing IQs go a long way in the ring and preparing for the fighter you're going up against when you look at the film and you try and take all of that stuff into consideration before you actually hit those steps going into the ring. So between the punching accuracy, the weight gain, the power and the IQ that Gervonta Davis has, I think he actually has a shot, and I would not disqualify him from this argument of going against Terence Crawford and actually doing it. Now, is it likely to happen? Hell no, it's probably not going to happen. I'm not going to lie to you. So I appreciate you for listening to the spiel, but it's probably not going to happen. However, the winner of boxing matchups definitely have a huge dependency on the styles of each fighter. Tank uses a lot of his southpaw stance. He can be technical when needed. He can go pound for pound when needed. But clearly Crawford, he was more of a straight line boxer in that last match against Spence, and it worked great for him. He had great defense and all of that. Again, I can go on and on and on. But Crawford would win this fight. I'd love to see it, but it's just probably not going to happen. A side note here, as a matter of fact, is that instead of Crawford, I think it's safe to say that most people actually want to see Gervonta Tank Davis fight Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson if they were to actually have a fight in recent times. If he was looking for a big fight, those are the guys that we would want him to target. Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, I mean, they're top dogs in that weight class, and Tank still hasn't even fought him yet. So that's business that needs to get done there. They got some dogs in that weight class, so I think it can definitely happen. I think it would be nice to see those fights happening, but Tank didn't even go up to 140 when he had the opportunity on multiple occasions, so I doubt he goes up more than 10 pounds to fight someone who's a champion in that weight class. Hell no. Probably not gonna happen. But anyway, hey man, if you heard something that you like, you disagree with, or even if you just want to outsmart me on something, go ahead, give us a call, 219-413-9405, and we will play your take back on air during our next episode. Now, next week, I do got to give you a heads up. I am going to be going on a cruise, man. I'm going to be going to Disney World first, and then I'm going to be going on a cruise. So you can catch some of those highlights on my personal Instagram at I am Manny Wilson. We still going to have podcast content coming up on our podcast page as well. So you can always check us out there at The Run Podcast. Until then, though, I appreciate you for hanging with me, kicking it with me, and embracing this community of listeners and sports fans. So, hey, until then, we will be back later on 2 weeks from now and so on and so on and so on.